Hello and welcome to Community Partnerships Helping Everyone Learn Prevention, a series designed to help inform, educate, and prevent the abuse of alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs, as well as lower the incidence of interpersonal violence. In this segment, our topic will be leadership. We're going to discuss a lot, including leadership definitions, leadership styles of a coalition, and finally, we'll reframe leadership within a prevention framework. So let's get started. The term leadership has many definitions, each varying according to the type of setting in which it occurs. A common definition might be the person or persons responsible for leading a group of people or an organization. A typical model for leadership that comes to mind for many may look something like this: a pyramid with the leader occupying the peak and sectors below for other positions. This leadership structure is often seen in businesses and organizations that use a top-down approach to its functioning. For the purpose of this video, we will focus on leadership within a coalition, which by definition is a formal arrangement for cooperation and collaboration between groups or sectors of a community. The Community Anti-Drug Coalitions of America, or CADCA, has a great series of materials called strategizers, one of which served as a resource for this series. It states, leadership has been identified time and time again as an essential element for coalition success, because coalitions involve harnessing the knowledge, resources, and energies of members, community partners, and other organizations, groups, and policymakers to create and implement cross-cutting approaches to complex issues. As such, any success will require building capacity or relationship building as a firm understanding of both internal and external processes. Keep in mind that in this video, we're talking about community volunteers being the driving force of a coalition. So we'll present a leadership model that facilitates the Strategic Prevention Framework, or SPIF, an evidence-based model that has been shown success in reducing substance abuse and violence. As a brief reminder, the SPIF model consists of 5 major parts: assessment, capacity building, planning, implementation, and evaluation. There are 2 remaining components to this model: cultural competency and sustainability, which act as a foundation for the framework. As we move forward in this presentation, think of capacity building as people, materials, and funding. We want to emphasize capacity building occurs when cultural competency is thought of as an understanding and tolerance for age, race, gender, religious belief, or socioeconomic status. Within this framework, a coalition should always include these subsections of society in their activities. A broad understanding of a community's culture will help sustain a coalition's long-term efforts. As you can see, there is a lot to consider when building a community coalition, essentially because they are challenged to manage multiple processes for success. Now let's take a look at 2 types of processes. First, there is the internal, which includes promoting openness and trust among members, helping meetings run smoothly and maintaining communication and connections among members between meetings. This is the inner game of coalition work. Many times the inner game must be facilitated or conducted by one or several members. A coalition's chair, co-chair, and secretary are known as position leadership and serve, for example, to start the meeting, facilitate discussion, send emails, and provide updates. Second, coalitions must also bridge to and influence activities and resources in the larger community. This is referred to as the outer game of coalition work. The outer game involves making sure that your coalition's efforts in the community are moving it toward outcomes, which is leaders in prevention. Coalitions must have leaders who can attend to both the inner and outer games. Hopefully by now you see that while there must be a position leader to help facilitate the coalition, there really is no single leader of prevention. If there was only one person responsible for the coalition's work, several risks could occur. Most importantly, what if the leader has to take a sudden or unexpected departure from the coalition? This could lead to confusion, if not total collapse of the coalition, because that leader takes the collective knowledge with them upon departure. This is why the core definition of a coalition takes into consideration various leaders from the community and emphasizes that collaboration is most effective when all members feel equal. After all, it's the people around the table who make the change happen. Good leadership involves everyone, not just someone. Now that we've spent time looking at definitions of leadership and why it's important to make leadership inclusive when implementing community initiatives, let's take another look at the leadership pyramid and make an adjustment to reflect a leadership change. Instead of there being leadership by position at the top, we're suggesting that leaders in prevention now set the course and the pace through the work they do in the community. And leaders by position help to facilitate, not delegate. So to reinforce this model, let's take a look at examples of how both internal and external processes present themselves and why more than one leadership style is necessary for effective prevention to occur. Since the most common leadership style is based on the top-down model, a collaborative and group accountability approach may be new for some. We know what some leaders are thinking. If I don't do this, then who will? They elected me chair, and I've got to make sure things get done. Both statements are valid concerns, but in collaboration, leadership is shared among volunteers. Take, for instance, that awkward silence that can happen when volunteers are asked to help with a project. It should not be expected that any one person be that sole volunteer. In all reality, having a single leader doing all the work can decrease the coalition's ability to be effective and can cause barriers to sustained drug prevention. So what are some of the tools that leaders employ? If you're the champion, someone we define as a community mobilizer who starts a coalition. Then as new members come to the table, your role is to find out what their strengths are, what they're good at, what they are passionate about, and then help them to find a way to use those talents. Coalitions are more effective if each volunteer can see value in what they are doing. As the champion, you will benefit from understanding SPIF and accessing the training and technical assistance provided by your regional support center. The initial interest and effort to start a coalition may come from just one person or a small group of people, but keep in mind that as capacity is built within the framework of cultural competency, you will want to make the shift to leaders in prevention. Another reason that a coalition needs leaders in prevention is there may be some resistance from the community that even the most skilled volunteer leader may be challenged to contend with individually. As an illustration, here are some statements commonly heard from community members when a coalition begins its prevention initiatives. Everybody does it, we just need to minimize the incidents. It's all right using alcohol, it's a rite of passage, it's those hard drugs that worry me. It's not that bad. Here, it's those kids from the neighboring community that cause the problems. And don't you remember being a teenager? This is when broad leadership from the group can be helpful in establishing a healthy foundation for the coalition and prevent the champion from taking the brunt of the criticism. Although it's often the champion who takes the initial risk, their role should soon become one of facilitation for a group consensus. When the coalition does decide to take action, it's the group who is accountable. Now is a good time to list some examples of what we call false walls and how they can limit leadership of one or many. Examples include, it's always been done this way. That group has never wanted to help before, so why ask again? We don't have any funding. If we search diligently, we'll find that this list expands with our own false walls, such as, we can't have children at the coalition, that'll make them want to do drugs. So-and-so is better at doing these things than I am. Or, I don't think I can be of any help. False walls, by our definition, are self-imposed limitations, and though they may seem real and insurmountable, they were created by our perceived limitations. It's easy to see by just a few of these examples that the adage, "it takes a village to raise a child," may apply here, in that some of the roles, obstacles, and community norms would be extremely difficult to breach by just one coalition leader. Even collectively, and with the community's best leadership talent at the table, those barriers may take some self-sacrifice and challenging work to overcome. We hope that as we've made our way through this discussion, you better understand that a coalition has greater success over time when the leadership is a role of the coalition itself, not a position of one person. Indeed, it's crucial that the group learns to see that its effectiveness lies with each volunteer and through being able to see the value in what is being done. The initial interest and effort to start the coalition may come from just one or a few, but for long-term prevention success, it will take broad community involvement and may require a paradigm shift in understanding leadership. In conclusion, we want to share a brief example of working through 3 basic stages of a coalition's life cycle to illustrate why it's crucial to a leaders in prevention understanding. Initially, a newly established coalition will most likely have a single champion who leads the formation of the group. As mentioned earlier, this is not uncommon, but as the group comes together and begins to define its purpose and vision, we suggest the focus be on building trust and fostering a transparency for what each member brings to the table as a leader. The people wanted at the table are often seen as leaders in their respective careers and professions, and the sooner we realize we all play a role in prevention, the less likely we'll be limited by the self-appointment of the champion as the only leader of the coalition. The next phase is when the coalition has had some success at capacity building and learning to better understand cultural competency. This stage is best achieved when core members begin to implement the strategic prevention framework in their coalition efforts. At this juncture, the group must prevent itself from being a victim of those pesky false walls. Effective prevention results in changing the environment where the substance abuse and violence was allowed to take root in the first place. Changing community norms is never easy, and there will be resistance. But when those limiting beliefs surface that say something can't be done, or when prevention efforts fall short of expectations, true leaders in prevention emerge and you will realize you're not alone. As the coalition moves towards sustainability, it will undoubtedly have its shares of ebbs and flows, highs and lows, after it has been around a while and has established some credibility in the community. It may encounter the third phase as a stagnation period. However, if the coalition has a history of shared leadership in prevention and not by position, then as a new generation of leaders are allowed to take stewardship of the coalition, the work of prevention will find a new direction and take on new challenges. Thank you for watching Helping Everyone Learn Prevention, an alcohol, drug, and violence prevention series developed by your Regional Support Center, Community Partnership of the Ozarks. If you'd like to know more about this program or have Community Partnership present at your organization, classroom, or community, contact us at 417-888-2020 or visit the web address on your screen.